Daniel Bryan returning to WWE in 2018 was something else. Take whatever story you want and I will put it up against this because it was just something that was never meant to happen, like me having hair. The leader of the S movement was done, he was out, he was never coming back, and then all of a sudden he was. There aren't many things more inspiring than that, especially given that Bryan tied it all in with encouraging others to believe in their dreams, and I tell you, it was just wonderful. For one reason or another, wrestling seems to be a hotbed for this, as performers and stars from all walks and levels find a way to drag themselves out of a rut and prove that anything is possible with the right attitude. It'll make you want to run through a positivity wall. It's only right to celebrate such characters like this, so I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is the 10 most inspiring wrestling transformations. Number 10, Kurt Angle. It's so easy to watch Kurt Angle in the 2000s and forget what he was going through behind the scenes, because in the ring you'd have had no clue. Consistently one of the best performers there was, in his personal life he was struggling quite badly, so much so he parted ways with WWE in 2006. Management was concerned about his well-being, but he saw things differently. Rightly or wrongly, that can't have been easy on either side. It did result in a shock arrival in TNA, and while the Olympic gold medalist continued to wow no matter who he was facing, he was also doubling the doses of his prescription medicine in order to hide the pain he was in. There were a few run-ins with the law which served as a true wake-up call, and in 2013 Angle entered rehab, and he has never looked back. He has been sober ever since, had his swan song in WWE, got inducted into the Hall of Fame, remains one of the greatest ever, and goes out of his way to try and help others, but more importantly than all of that, is happy. Just go and look at his Instagram to see Kurt with his family. It will warm your cotton socks. Number 9, Jeff Hardy. While WWE likes to shine a light on Jeff Hardy's sobriety when it comes to TV angles, see Sheamus and Elias, forget all that. If Hardy's cool with it, that's his choice, but it's what he's been able to achieve which is truly motivating. While he was stunning crowds in the ring, given that he would quite literally do anything, Jeff too had issues with WWE when he refused to go to rehab. It resulted in a 2003 release, and while he would bounce between the company and TNA over the years, the one constant seemed to be Hardy's struggles with his addictions. Amazingly, he was able to balance all this and still be a huge wrestling star, which I suppose may have been too much pressure for anybody to deal with. It all came to a head at the Victory Road pay-per-view in 2011 when he went out to wrestle Sting in no condition to perform. It was heartbreaking. There have been other setbacks too, but in 2020 Jeff Hardy is a man renewed and still finding himself at the top with legions of fans who will never stop cheering him until their throats go dry. Hardy has genuinely turned his life and career around, and let's face it, if the opportunity arises for one last world title run, I can easily see it happening. What a thing that will be. Number 8, Shawn Michaels. I think the best way to sum this up is even The Undertaker, when he was doing his promotional rounds, admitted that while they're excellent friends now, back in the day Shawn Michaels was not his type of person. A large reason for this was because of the problems HBK was going through, and that's nothing to do with his in-ring skills. Michaels is up there with the best ever, but in the 90s, Shawn was part of the party crowd, which wasn't always the best place to be in terms of your health. The Heartbreak Kid was so damn good it didn't affect him at all during matches. There was a big consensus that Shawn Michaels Part 1 was not the easiest guy to get along with, as his brain was constantly clouded due to whatever he was taking. Quite amazingly though, it would take his career essentially being over to re-find himself. Becoming a born-again Christian, Michaels not only completely got off all the pills he was relying upon, but he returned to wrestling and he was better than he ever had been. And sure, some people prefer round 1, others prefer round 2, but that's the whole point. His level is so high, he doesn't really have a bad gear. These days, he's integral to NXT and an absolute treasure trove of information and education for anyone who wishes to sit beneath his learning tree. And let's face it, you're going to get one hell of a decent schooling. Number 7, Jake Roberts. Nobody is as intimidating as Jake Roberts. We've talked about it before and we'll do it again, but he could invite you out for coffee and you'd be worried what he was going to do. The man is terrifying in the best way possible. A real window into his life was opened up to fans in 1999's Beyond the Mat, and my word, if you've never seen it, be sure to prepare yourself. Speaking about a life so troubled he was barely a child before the issues began, Jake was not only a victim of his environment, but also a victim of the 80s wrestling scene, which was beyond extreme. Plenty of stories about concerning indie appearances sent waves of worry around the wrestling community, until who else? Diamond Dallas Page swooped in to save the day. Documented in The Resurrection of Jake Roberts, that'll have you in tears at least 45 times, you get to see this transformation in real time and just how hard the snake worked work to get there. You name it, Jake changed it, and seeing him have a career resurgence in AEW is just something else. That was never on the cards even a few years ago, and now he's smashing it once again. True courage and true grit right there. Number 6, Scott Hall. Another man who found peace under the watchful eyes of DDP, Scott Hall was on an industry no list for a long time. There was just too much baggage. Much like Jake Roberts, numerous stories about concerning indie appearances were rife online, including one where clearly Scott should never have been allowed to go to the ring. Given this had been going on since he joined WCW in 1996, even best friend Kevin Nash at one point said he would wait by the phone, expecting it to ring and getting told the worst. A glimmer of hope reared its head when ESPN did a documentary on Hall that exposed all of this. And once again, prepare your eyes for tissues. And it was here when Dallas Paige invited him into his quite incredible House of Healing and turned him into a new man. Hall is proof that not only will wrestling fans stay loyal to performers no matter what they go through, but there's always a better side and a better life waiting just around the corner. If Razor Ramon can turn his lot around, so can you. Number 5, Edge. Unlike others we have covered here, Edge's story is not dictated by drugs or alcohol that most of the time is brought on because of how hard pro wrestling is. It does tie into that last bit though. Seeing Adam Copeland have to retire in 2011 way before he should have done was one of the most emotional moments in sports entertainment history, especially given what he had done before all of this. A bona fide main eventer who had changed the game forever given his contribution to TLC, it just didn't feel right, and that's because it wasn't. The sheer wear and tear of wrestling had stolen him away. Much like Daniel Bryan, however, against all odds, Edge somehow surprised the world at the 2020 Royal Rumble when he made a comeback which was basically formed on spirit, emotion, and force of will. He wasn't sure if he was able to make a return, but what if? That little idea was enough to fan the flames to try one last time. His entrance is also one of the best damn things you'll ever see because his feelings are written all over his face, and it will forever be one of the greatest moments ever. The sheer love between the Rated R superstar and the fans will give you chills, and the real joy was that now he could go out on his own terms. Someone should make a flippin' movie about this. Before Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss is one inspiring human. Bursting onto the WWE scene in 2016 with a confidence and level of ability way beyond her experience, she is now a firm favorite and a pivotal part of the women's division. Try and imagine it without her doesn't make sense. A huge reason for this success is likely based on her past experiences, something she has very courageously shared with the public. Speaking out about her eating disorders and her mental health issues, to have gone from such a difficult place to being on top of an industry which prides itself on aesthetics is just badass. It also hopefully sends the message out to others that they too can turn their life around. And don't forget, Alexa Bliss has done all of this before she turns 30 years old. Regardless how big she is currently, Bliss is going to get even bigger still, you mark my words. And of course now she's even more important to WWE because she's best friends with the one and only Bray Wyatt. Number 3, Matt Hardy. All you need to do to get a face full of positivity is go on Matt Hardy's Twitter account, where the broken one is just a pillar of good. And he's still underrated, I'll throw that in there as I got the opportunity. He's also been changing the game the last few years when he introduced us to the Broken Universe in 2016, and somehow was able to take that story from TNA to WWE and then finish off in AEW. Who else can boast that? You have to say this wave of creativity came off the back of a very scary time though. Revealed and then some in the WWE 24 special on both Hardys, the older sibling was far closer to the edge than many realized between 2005 and 2010, and was even sent home from a September European tour before being released a month later. Another one that somehow hid this on television. Off of it, he was falling asleep in interviews and triggering worry in long-term friends such as Christian. Things didn't look good. Matt then is another case of overcoming all of that and not only getting back to wrestling, but arguably delivering your best body of work yet. That doesn't just happen, and the way he has managed to morph and change over time is a testament to his knowledge and skill when it comes to wrestling. I will finish this by saying he should have been WWE champion at least once. Number 2, Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes doesn't make any sense. He is currently in his 50s and moves and looks better than he ever has done. I will never get my head around it. Go and watch any of his most recent matches too. The man is a legend. Way back in the 2000s, mind, things were very different, as the then Goldust was struggling with some wrestler demons. He saw some strange creations manifest themselves on screen, and Dustin was shown the WWE door a couple of times. Much like in 2020, he kept coming, and here we are, and he's absolutely killing the game. Not only does that apply to his own matches, but he's also helping the next generation, which means he's more than living up to his own father's legacy. The apple fell very close to the tree. But Dustin has been very open about the things he did go through in his younger years, years, and I would implore you to go read about them all. Not only may you learn something, but I tell you, inspiration is just around the corner. Number 1, Paige. Paige's early retirement was beyond sad. She's only 28 years old now and had to walk away from wrestling in 2018. That is just not fair. Paige was just hitting her stride when a neck injury took her off TV, and between that, a very controversial relationship with Alberto Del Rio, and a totally uncalled for video leak, it's no wonder she felt in a very bad place. Anybody would have done. And in numerous interviews, she's admitted that she even considered suicide. It is a horrible story. Despite everything we just said, however, which do not forget was also the loss of the only thing she had ever known, Paige found a way to dust herself off and not only become a pretty good SmackDown GM for a short while, but also co-host the WWE Backstage program. Paige also smashed it on Twitch, and there's plenty more we'll say about that in other videos, and even then she is still fighting through. Paige is a perfect example of what someone is capable of no matter what. She even had a stalker invade her home, which boggles the mind, and let's hope from this point on, Paige just has good cheer and good news. And even if life does throw a few more curveballs her way, you just know that sooner rather than later, she'll be back on top of the game. Know of any other inspiring wrestling transformations? Make sure you let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, and watch more videos here on What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you for watching, and given the topic of this video, if you are going through anything right now, know that you can do it. You can get to the other side, and somebody is always waiting to speak to you. Never hold it in. Always speak out. You haven't done anything wrong, and I totally believe in you.